Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going into the really intense corporate drama at a company called Meridian Consolidated. We've been through a whole stack of source material, and it basically reads like a forensic report on ambition. It really gets into this deep cost of, that professional performance we all do and how these corporate roles can, well, how they can fundamentally change you.
Yeah, and what we're really looking at here for you is that central question, the one about authenticity versus, well, necessity. How do the moral compromises that you have to make for success, how do they change who you are at your core? We're exploring this idea of the masks we wear until we become them. It's a terrifying thought, really.
It is, exactly. So our mission today is to track the downfall or, maybe it's the liberation of one Viktor Sören. He's a 43-year-old VP, and he's navigating a truly impossible high-stakes crisis. This whole thing involves a disastrous financial loss, a manager named Chen, a ruthless boardroom rival, a man named Marcus Trent. And it all leads to this huge decision about whether the stage is even worth the performance anymore.
And the sources, they open with this really powerful image. Victor is alone. He's in the 47th floor boardroom, but he's not celebrating some deal. He's just contemplating termination orders that he has already signed. So it's already a transactional moment. He needs to eliminate a problem before that problem, eliminates him.
Okay, so let's unpack that problem. The immediate problem is a manager named Chen, Victor's ally, a guy named Dmitry Kovac. He confirms that Chen's division is, what's the word? Hemorrhaging money. Something like $17 million in the last quarter alone. That's the objective failure the board sees. That's the number on the page.
Right. But the sources, they immediately pivot to the complications because it's never just a number. There's this forensics report detailing all the irregularities, and you're wondering, is it just incompetence or is it something darker? Embezzlement. But all of that gets completely overshadowed by the human crisis. This guy, Chen, he's been with Meridian for 22 years, and his daughter is fighting leukemia. The treatment costs around $40,000 a month.
And that's where the whole dynamic just shifts, doesn't it?
Okay.
Dmitry points this out, this enormous human cost. The guy's long tenure, the fact that his daughter's life is literally hanging on his employment benefits.
Yeah.
But Viktor, he's the pragmatic VP. His reaction isn't empathy. It's strategy.
It's pure damage control. His solution is, okay, we offer Chen a generous early retirement package, full pension. And this is the critical part, guaranteed medical benefits. And he absorbs the $17 million, just writes it off as restructuring costs.
So it just disappears into the corporate budget.
Exactly. And the sources are so explicit about this. This is not compassion. This is risk management.
Why?
Because the possibility of the Wall Street Journal getting a hold of this story, Meridian fires 22-year veteran whose daughter is dying, that poses a much greater threat to the stock price than the $17 million loss ever could.
That's such a key insight. But it really brings up the core question to this whole deep dive, right? If the outcome of your decision is deeply compassionate, you're saving a man's reputation, you're securing his daughter's medical care, but the motivation behind it is just cynical corporate self-preservation, does the motivation even matter? Is there any real difference between risk management and compassion if the results look the same on the outside?
Well, from Victor's perspective at that moment, no. There is no difference. For him, it's just a successfully optimized problem. He solved the equation.
But solving that equation immediately throws him into a political crossfire. The source material really paints a picture of Meridian's culture as simultaneously predator and prey. And that's where Marcus Trent comes in, the CFO, the chairman's favorite. And he absolutely objects to this plan for Chen.
Of course he does. For Marcus, any cost that looks like compassion is just a weakness. It sets a horrible precedent. He wants a clean public firing. Send a message, no mercy. But Viktor has a lifeline, an ace up his sleeve, right inside Marcus's own camp, Nora Keller. She's Marcus's executive assistant, and it turns out Viktor's former lover.
Nora. She's maybe the most fascinating character in all of this. She completely clarifies the corporate ethos. She has this line where she says she refuses to pretend that their interactions are anything nobler than transaction and desire. She's the one feeding Viktor all the real-time strategic intelligence.
And the intel she provides is just, it's devastating. Marcus isn't just complaining, he is actively building a full dossier against Viktor. He plans to present it to the chairman, Arthur Crane, on Friday. And these are not vague complaints. They are specific, documented financial failures.
Okay, let's get into those. What's in the file?
The Donovan contract, a $15 million loss. The Santiago merger, which is underperforming by a solid 30%. And then there's the Budapest office. High staff turnover, which Marcus is successfully framing as permissiveness on Viktor's part. Lack of discipline.
Wait, hold on a second. How solid are these points, really? And the Donovan contract was a bust. Okay, fine. But a merger underperforming by 30%? That could be a failure in post-acquisition integration, which is almost always messy. And why is Viktor the only one getting blamed for permissiveness in Budapest?
Because Marcus isn't building a case, he's building a narrative. And the narrative is that Viktor is soft. And at Meridian, that's the greatest sin of all. They don't care that mergers are complex, they just care that the ROI isn't there, and that Budapest permissiveness. It wasn't just staff turnover, it was seen as a disregard for the rigid expense and cultural rules that Crane, the chairman, put in place. So Marcus is painting this picture of Viktor as someone who puts people ahead of the bottom line. And in that environment, that's like kryptonite.
Right. And then comes the real kicker. The thing that makes all this backstabbing completely obsolete. Nora reveals the bigger picture.
Yeah, the real game.
The chairman, Arthur Crane, who's described as 78 and ruthless, he's planning to restructure the entire executive team.
The whole thing. He's using Marcus's ambition and Viktor's supposed weaknesses as the justification he needs to just clean house. He's going to bring in fresh blood from the outside.
So this whole time they're fighting each other.
It's pointless. They're fighting over deck chairs on the Titanic.
Both of them are targets.
Yeah.
Which means all their little strategies, their dossiers, it's all based on a flawed premise. The game board is about to be wiped clean.
And then the crisis just accelerates into tragedy. The emotional tipping point, the thing that finally breaks Viktor's performance, happens when Chen's daughter, she takes a sudden turn for the worse, and she dies.
Wow.
Chen, just completely destroyed by grief, goes straight from the hospital to the boardroom. He's trying to find some kind of meaning in destruction, I think. He's there to confess everything, to martyr himself.
And this is where raw, unmasked humanity slams right into pure corporate power. Crane, the chairman, is there. He listens. Chen says that dignity is irrelevant now that his daughter is gone. And Crane delivers this brutally honest line.
Guilt is a luxury. Martyrdom is self-indulgence.
It's so cold. But then there's this strange, hard-edged twist. Crane pressures Chen to take the retirement package anyway, to use the money to set up a foundation in his daughter's name, to turn that loss into a purpose.
And Viktor's just watching this whole thing unfold. Chen's self-destruction, Crane's harsh, pragmatic wisdom, and he realizes that the entire performance is just bankrupt. He sends an immediate resignation email. Right there, right then, to the chairman.
And his reasoning.
He just says he doesn't want to fight this kind of fight anymore. The ambition, it cost him everything he valued. He's choosing to just walk off the stage.
Crane's response to that email is almost like a confession, isn't it? He warns Viktor. He says, "Don't become me, Viktor. Once you step off the wheel, you don't get to step back on."
It's an incredible moment. It's the architect of this whole ruthless system admitting that he's a prisoner of his own creation.
And right after Viktor quits, Nora makes her move. Her first, completely non-strategic move. She walks straight into Marcus's office and, in this total rejection of her past, tells him exactly where he can go.
She quits, just like that. She says she is just utterly tired of the performance. She needs to figure out who she is when strategy isn't dictating her every single action.
So if we look at the aftermath, what happens? Marcus Trent actually wins, right? In a way.
He does. He gets his goal. Crane steps down the next quarter. Marcus is named CEO, but the sources call it an empty kingdom, a victory of position, but not of power or integrity.
But the sources also confirm how Viktor was really pushed out. It wasn't just his choice. Marcus, in his hurry to get rid of Viktor, had already leaked a bunch of documents.
Right, to a reporter, Elena Vasquez at the Wall Street Journal.
Exactly. Details on some questionable Cyprus accounts, a controversial memo that went against ethical guidelines. He was trying to force Viktor out and ruin his reputation.
And this is where Viktor and Nora pull off their countermove. It's brilliant. They don't try to deny the leaked facts. That would be pointless. Instead, they agree to meet with the reporter, with Elena Vasquez, and they don't fight the story. They frame it. They give it context.
And the title of the article that comes out just perfectly captures the whole thing. The Masks We Wear Until We Become Them. 2 executives on why they left corporate America. They managed to frame their departure not as a failure, but as a kind of realization.
A realization that the corporate model has this structural inevitability, as they call it. It always pits profit against people, and in the end, it destroys even its most ambitious players.
And that new narrative, it has immediate real-world consequences.
Huge consequences. The article creates massive fallout for Meridian's reputation. But personally, Chen contacts Victor. He accepts the retirement package. He establishes the foundation. And then he does something really powerful. He sends Victor a personal check for $50,000, the first donation to his own foundation. And he asks Victor to match it, to prove that the choices he's making now actually matter.
Wow. So he's calling his bluff, in a way.
Exactly.
And Victor agrees. He knows that $50,000 will be a significant hit to his savings, his runway. But he sees it as a commitment to something real. It's not about purchasing absolution, as the source says. It's about genuine participation.
And they find out later that the article, their public story, actually helped Chen's foundation raise another $200,000 from the public. So their new performance, their honesty, had a real impact.
And what about Nora and Victor? Where do they end up?
The post-corporate analysis of them is fascinating. They make this commitment to be incompetent at authenticity together. They're smart enough to recognize that even this quest for an authentic self is its own kind of performance.
Nora even calls it the most elaborate performance of all.
Yeah. They haven't found some single, easy truth. They've just chosen a different stage to perform on.
It's such a profound shift when you think about it. Victor traded everything, relationships, integrity for success, only to find his purpose by walking away from that success and embracing this terrifying uncertainty of just being honest.
And that's what connects this whole story back to you, the listener. The real tension here isn't good versus evil. It's a conflict between two ways of existing. There's the person who is completely defined by their mask, by their position, and then there's the person who steps off that stage to go searching for their self.
So ultimately, the source material seems to be suggesting that the real goal isn't to find some single, pure, real face under the mask. It's more about recognizing that we are all multiple selves competing for dominance. And the real work of living is choosing which of those performances we're going to commit to, with the full knowledge that they are choices.
And maybe the hardest choice of all, the one that Nora and Victor finally commit to, is just being okay with not knowing what comes next. That uncertainty, when you finally embrace it, that becomes the starting point for everything else, for genuine consequence.
A truly high-stakes deep dive into the corporate soul. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time.